One, I'm calling this meeting to order at 1:32. Beth, can you do roll call, please?
Austin,
Present.
DiDonato,
Sorry, guys. I tried to alt tab over and it wasn't working. Yes, here.
Dilger,
Here.
Dombrowski, Jacobson,
Here.
Lemmer,
Here.
Rosenthal.
Here.
Present for CCS, we have Deborah Wishmeyer and Beth Steinbrenner.
Thank you. Any additions to the agenda? Any public comment? Do we get any emails or anything like that that needed to be read?
We did not.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the April 1st, 2021 meeting.
So
So
moved.
moved.
I'll give that to Anthony. Lauren, you want a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, I guess we have to do a roll call vote for all this stuff still.
Austin,
Yes.
DiDonato,
Yes.
Dilger,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes,
Lemmer,
Abstain.
Rosenthal.
Yes.
Thank you.
so we have one abstain and the rest are ayes.
I
All
wasn't
right.
on the committee, so I don't feel like I can say yes. Not that I don't trust you, it's just that I wasn't here.
We know what you meant, Catherine. Every abstaining is a slap to my face as a chair. No, just kidding. It was totally makes sense. I would do the same in your space. Number 6, LSAP support allocation for fiscal year 21-22. We discussed this at our last meeting. First of all, do we need an action and a second and then discussion? Because there's lots of different options, seemingly. So do we want to do a motion and a second for one of the options and then discuss, or do you want to just discuss beforehand so we know what we're motioning? Let's just discuss now and then we can do a motion. So Deborah or Beth, whichever, do you mind, because Catherine wasn't there and some of us, my memory is very good, but I don't know that everybody else's memory is as good as mine. Can you update us again on what this all is?
Sure, I'm happy to. At the previous budget and finance meeting in April, the group discussed how the LSAP grant funding that we receive from Rails should be distributed out to all of our members. So CCS has previously distributed this money out equally among our libraries, with the exception of Carrie, who did qualify for some additional funding per the previous grant formula. So Rails recently redesigned their grant formula to be more sustainable and equitable for the LSAPs. The new formula uses 4 new metrics to distribute funding out to each of the 6 LSAPs. 3 of these metrics would apply to CCS, and those are collection expenditures per capita, annual LSAP fee as a percentage of library operating expenditures, and then ILL and reciprocal borrowing transactions. There is a 4th metric, and that is the multi-type library bonus, but because CCS only has public libraries, no special academic school libraries, that one, we're not awarded any money for that metric. So with this new formula, 2 of these 3 that apply to CCS are library specific, meaning that CCS is awarded a specific dollar amount for each of our members for those 2 metrics. Those 2 metrics that are library specific are collection expenditures per capita, and then annual LSAP fee as a percentage of library operating expenditures. So again, those library specific amounts that are assigned to each library for CCS, those were sent out in the documents I sent out ahead of the meeting. The group had previously agreed that each library should receive back the dollar amount assigned to them by the grant formula for collection expenditures and then the annual fee metric. So the group had previously discussed that we should distribute those per the amount that the library was assigned. The metric that's in question of how we should distribute out is the ILL and reciprocal borrowing fee, which is a system-wide metric. So Rails calculates that based on like a system-wide number we give to them. It's not broken down by what each library contributes to the consortium. So we've put forth 2 recommendations in the document that was sent out to the group. Option 1 would be splitting out the reciprocal borrowing ILL funds evenly among all libraries. And option 2 would be to split the ILL RB funds proportionately, following that same formula that we use to determine our membership fees. So as you know, 75% of membership fees are split evenly among all libraries, and then the remaining 25% are split proportionately based on average adjusted income. So CCS is recommending option 1, splitting that ILL RB portion of the grant money evenly among libraries, because this would be more closely in line with what Rails is trying to achieve with this grant funding. Essentially with option 1, smaller libraries would get higher award amounts back. Option 2 means larger libraries with higher income would receive higher award amounts. So CCS would be recommending option 1, split ILL RB funding evenly among all of our libraries. Again, and then as previously agreed, splitting the amount assigned for the other 2 metrics based on the amount that was actually assigned by the Rails grant.
Thank you for the explanation. Does anybody have any questions around this? We had previously discussed, and just catch Catherine up a little bit on this. We previously discussed when we do the rebates from CCS that we examine that and potentially give those back at this percentage of how much people pay into CCS. So it's like there's 2 distinct things happening here, and it's kind of confusing me a little bit. And though Deborah's explanation right there really helped split it out. So the rebate, we can just put that aside. We're not talking about that at all. So we can talk about that again in the spring when we start talking about whether we're going to do, if we even have money for a rebate, and if we do, then we will do proportionally or not. We'll decide then. So right now we're talking about the Rails grant, and I personally think CCS suggestion of having the, I mean, everybody can share evenly. It doesn't always happen that. And the point of this is kind of give libraries that have less more money, so then they can maybe bolster their collections and then give more. So I think it aligns very well. So I personally think option 1 makes sense and was something I would be happy to suggest to the governing board if the rest of the committee is on board.
I agree. Deborah, your explanation made perfect sense, and I appreciate you having a recommendation.
And I will note too, I believe the group, and I wasn't present at the April meeting, had also talked about splitting the ILL RB portion according to each library's individual ILL and reciprocal borrowing transactions. So like getting a tally for how much each library contributed to the overall numbers and splitting it out proportionately. But CCS wouldn't recommend that approach, as noted in the description we sent out, because the amount of materials the library is able to send out via ILL is really dependent on their collection size and their collection budget. And reciprocal borrowing transactions are heavily influenced by proximity to neighboring CCS libraries as well. For example, Zion is alone up there in the northwest corner of Illinois, while a library like Niles or Des Plaines is clustered amongst other CCS libraries. So we felt that that wasn't the most equitable way to divide that ILL-RB money as well.
Honestly, I don't remember that conversation about doing the ILL. Does anybody? I don't remember. I thought we were talking about something else at that time, but maybe I misremember.
Oh, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what that discussion. Maybe Rebecca just had written it up internally at CCS. So I apologize if that wasn't previously discussed. But in case it was to come up at this meeting, we wouldn't recommend that route for the reasons I just mentioned.
Yes, Catherine?
Can I just ask if the collection expenditures includes only circulating materials and if it includes electronic materials.
Let me see if the documentation, I may need to just look at the Rails write-up really quick. I'll find that out for you, Catherine. Give me just 1 minute.
I mean, I'm just curious in the sense that the big libraries are pushing hundreds of thousands and Lake Forest, even though it's a little hundreds of thousands of dollars into the e-collections as advantage titles and then releasing those into a bigger group. And so I'm wondering if there's if Rails is taking that into consideration at all in determining the collection expenditures. Because if they're not, I think then we have a conversation with Rails next year about how, I mean, I'm not thinking about this year. I'm thinking about the conversation to start with them now for next year about how they're really thinking about collection expenditures and the fact that if you release $100,000 worth of advantage titles, those are really RB titles then, because you're releasing them into a pool of other libraries.
So it looks like Rails is getting that data from IPLAR. So then the question is for IPLAR,
Which
What are
question they're
you-
polling?
Yeah,
yeah, what is,
17.1 or 17.3?
yeah,
It's
so
okay.
I believe
I can do some research and figure and look myself, so.
yeah, in the documentation I have from Rails, it doesn't specify which line they're pulling that data from. It does look like in the LSAP grant application, it says total budget for books, periodicals, audiovisual, CDs, and electronic resources. So I would assume it does include your electronic resource budget.
all right, that's a good question, Catherine. So maybe we can ask Ann Slaughter for clarity where they're pulling that number from, because you're right, like the North Shore libraries and CCS among them have a lot of libraries who put a lot of money into e-resources. Even the smaller libraries are pouring a lot into it. And I think compared to a lot of the Swan libraries, not that I know Swan very well, or Prairie Cat, like they might not be putting almost anything into it comparatively. So if we could get more from Rails, that'd be wonderful. Is there any discussion about the motion kind of now on sort of on the table? Could I have for option number 1, how would you like us to word this? Just, I can't remember if the wording was in here somewhere.
It is. I'm looking for it too, though.
Well, if Jim finds the word and he can nominate it then.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve it as it was recommended. Where is it?
If ILLRB portion of the grant is split evenly.
I don't know if we put a
I don't see
recommended motion in the packet.
I don't see one, but I feel like we have to approve not just how to handle the ILLRB, but the other expenditures also. So
Can we
what,
do that separately? Could we do the ILLRB first? Or do you want it all as one motion?
I drafted just as a suggestion, maybe a recommendation to governing board for the LSAP support allocation for fiscal year 21-22 to split the collection expenditures per capita and annual fee to budget by amount assigned by Rails, and split the ILLRB funding evenly among all libraries.
That sounds like a good motion to me. Someone want to make that motion?
I make that motion as Spence stated.
Thanks, Jeannie. Can we have a second, please?
I will second that motion.
Thank you, Jim. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Austin,
Yes.
DiDonato,
Yes.
Filter,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Lemmer,
Yes,
Rosenthal.
Yes.
And I swear I saw you guys write that down and put it in a packet. I know I saw it somewhere. So,
it's kind of spread out over the, it's in 3 different places on the landscape document.
maybe
Well-
that, you know what, that may be where I saw it. Yeah.
I
Learn
will,
my lesson. I'll do that better next time.
it's a valuable lesson. So the governing board is next week.
It is.
Yes.
So I will basically sum up our conversation and present this to the governing board in 30 seconds or less. I don't see much discussion, so I don't want to bore anybody.
You never
So-
know. There could be a healthy amount of discussion, but hopefully the group will think your recommendation's a good one.
It's all Mick's fault. It's all his fault.
Talk to my kids. Next meeting. So that's on the agenda, next meeting. Do we have, are we scheduling another meeting? I feel like we're done for a little while.
Yeah, at this time, we don't have a next meeting date. So likely this group will not need to meet again until the fall when we begin prepping our budget for the next fiscal year.
Mhm.
So you guys should have a few months off. So thank you for being our first committee meeting of the fiscal year. But now you guys get a nice little break.
Yeah, great.
I say we are also going to be the most efficient one of your fiscal year.
I mean, yeah, less than 20 minutes. I'm impressed, guys.
Sorry,
That'll be the record.
I got one last question. There's a governing board meeting next week?
There is.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too for some reason.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay, thank you. What day, when?
You might need to send that out again.
Because of the new fiscal year, I may not have the new fiscal year ones in my calendar.
So it'll be
July
July
14th.
14th.
The 14th.
July
But-
14th.
Yeah, I haven't,
What
I didn't
time?
have it on my calendar either.
It will be at 10 a.m. We will be sending out the packet tomorrow. So it'll be 10 a.m. next Wednesday.
I may not be there. I'm sorry, already.
Might
booked
be
a
worth-
construction.
It might be worth resending out the meeting schedule along with the package, so everybody has that.
I do think it was in the April packet, but we can certainly resend again.
Yeah.
It is a little confusing with the change to quarterly.
And this one is still via Zoom?
This will be our last one, likely hosted via Zoom. The order by the governor was extended through, I believe, July 24th. And after that, we'll plan to revert back to in-person meetings for August, September, October.
Right.
So this might be our last Zoom meeting of this
Committees
odd
can't
year.
continue to make, since we just make a recommendation, committees can't continue to meet via Zoom?
I think that will be something when Rebecca's back, she'll begin discussions with committees. I know that there has been some discussion of people, we've had really good attendance for committee meetings when they're in a virtual capacity versus in person. So I think that is something we may be interested in pursuing. We have no more committee meetings scheduled for the next few months. So it's kind of a decision we'll push off till Rebecca comes back.
Okay, thank you.
But executive committee has decided they will begin meeting in person in August and September.
Good.
And the October governing board, Mick has been kind enough to offer to host that at Lake Villa.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put us in the smallest, least ventilated room. Because I don't want to actually, just a quorum, that's all. Just kidding. All right, if there's nothing else, at 1:50, declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
very
everyone,
much.
for being so
Thanks,
efficient today.
everyone.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
See you next week.